guys, welcome to our channel Top Core Stories. In today's episode, we will look into the creepiest paranormal activities experienced by people. Let's head into our story number 1 by Natalie Leroy. She has a deep interest in mysticism and spirituality.
When I was 23, I lived in a house that was over 100 years old in an up-and-coming neighborhood, aka a kind of scary place to be. My neighbors were nice Mexican drug dealers, and my house was extraordinarily cheap. 3 bedrooms, hardwood floors, upper with refurbished attic, $600 per month. For a poor art student, this was amazing. I wanted to stay forever. I put my studio in the attic. We had ridiculous costume parties and made Polish and Mexican food every night. But my studio was scary. I painted super fast because I could feel someone watching me, and there were always shadows of people in the door. 2 months in, I stopped going up there, and not very smartly, insulting the presences that were there for interrupting my work. Stupid ghost, how boring it must be to hang out up there. Leave the house to the living. I do not recommend doing that. I did it because I was scared. Never ever do that. Things moved around all the time. Papers stacked at night would be scattered all over the next morning, and all night I could hear someone walking around upstairs even though nobody was there. My boyfriend, my roommates, my friends could hear it. Once, after seeing the giant black shadow standing behind my roommate, I pointed and told it to go away. As my friend and I left the house that afternoon, I tripped and nearly fell down the stairs. I turned around, whoa, laughing, but she was white. A black hand came out of the stairs. After that, things got weird around my room. My door constantly opened at night when I closed it. There was knocking on my door. I burned so much sage my wool rug had a permanent stink to it. I had dreams about being murdered all the time, my throat cut. I learned blocking, and began to visualize huge nets of white light around my house. I saw orbs glowing off the back balcony. One night though, I took off all my clothes and lay under my blanket. I was very much in love, and began to think about him when something moved out of the corner of my eye. My bed faced the door, and I lifted my head up and watched it swing all the way open, beyond what any draft would do. I got angry. And then all the blankets were pulled towards the door and completely off the bed by unseen hands. I didn't even scream, I was so scared. I put on a dress, and left the house with a toothbrush and didn't return for 2 days. I never slept with the lights off again there. My friend moved in a few years later to that gloriously cheap house, and the second night she texted me, "So who is the guy upstairs?"
What do you guys think? Who was the guy upstairs? I would be scared as hell if I encountered anything strange in my house. Also, let us know about strange paranormal encounters that you guys have experienced in the comment box below. If you like hearing similar stories, please like and subscribe to our channel and stay tuned. Let's move on to our next story by Abhijit Joshi, who is a team leader at Cybage Software Private Limited.
It happened back in 2002. I don't know what should I call it, a ghostly experience or a paranormal. From Kolhapur, we were heading to a village called Kaga. The road was narrow and going through hilly area. It was around 9 p.m. We were riding a Yamaha RX 100 bike. It was going to take another couple of hours to reach the destination. A road was something like this. We decided to wait for a while to smoke. As it was dark and hilly area, we decided to stop for a very short time. We found a milestone which stated that we are still 59 kilometers away from the destination. We stopped and my friend smoked. I don't smoke. I told my friend to drive a bit faster so that we can reach sooner and find a hotel to stay in. We started again. After driving for another half an hour in an almost straight direction, my friend suddenly stopped the bike. I asked him the reason. He said, "Abby, did you notice something?" Me, "No, what is it?" Him, "Isn't it the same place we stopped half an hour ago?" I noticed the same milestone and cigarette stop he smoked. Shit. What is this? We did not take a turn, we were driving in a straight direction. Now it was almost 9:45 and we are still 59 kilometers away from the destination. A cold wave ran through my spine. I hastily ran towards the bike and asked my friend to start it and leave this place ASAP. Now, we were still to face the nightmare. Again, after driving for 20 to 25 minutes, we reached to the same spot. Oh my god. What's going on? We were driving like in circle and reaching nowhere. We did not understand that without taking a turn or riding in a circular direction, how we reached the same spot twice. It was too creepy. We prayed and begged for mercy to the Lord. And started again. Miraculously, we reached the destination after an hour and a half. Next morning I spoke with some local guys about this. They said that many people have experienced it at the same spot where we did. I don't know what that was, but surely creepy one though.
Do you guys have ever experienced similar paranormal events? If so, let us know what happened. We love hearing such stories. Did you guys like this story? What do you guys think what happened with Abhijit? Please mention your thoughts on the comment section below. Now let's listen to our last pick by Kelly Rensher.
It's a little long, but it's true. I actually left out some really freaky details just to keep it a reasonable length. My husband had a year-long training for his medical job in the military, so the kids and I were allowed to move so we could live with him. We thought we had really lucked out when I found a house for rent in a quaint little suburb of San Antonio, and the owner wanted to rent to a military family. It had 3 bedrooms, a huge office playroom, a garage, a big storage shed with windows, and even a swimming pool with pool service included in the rent, which was only $850 per month. We should have known it was too good to be true. It was great at first. We had frequent cookouts and entertained our new friends. The kids loved swimming and it was nice to cool off from the record temperatures that had caused the massive drought. The kitchen was small, but the huge playroom had built-in shelves and a split door so I could shut the bottom and open the top half to keep my toddler contained but accessible while I was busy in the living room or kitchen. And the house sat on a cul-de-sac less than a mile from the elementary school. We loved it. Then it started. We had been there, maybe a couple of months when we noticed the first sign something was off. Birds wouldn't fly over our yard. When they occasionally did, they got in gruesome mid-air fights that often resulted in a dead bird falling to our grass. It was like nothing we'd ever seen. The odd animal issues continued. Hundreds of tiny baby snakes poured from a crack under the toilet. No problem. We had it sealed. The mangled corpses of various small animals randomly appeared in our yard. No problem. One of the neighbors must have a cat. A cat gave birth under our storage shed. We couldn't see the kittens, but we could hear them. Until we didn't. We could only smell them. My husband's coworker gave us a kitten. I grew up raising and taming kittens. This one couldn't be tamed. I still have scars from it. We had to give it back. I think the animal event that upset me the most involved the nest a little bird had made on our towel stand by the pool. For many weeks we watched the mama bird sit on that nest. When she'd take a food break, I'd sneak our boys out to admire the nest, lifting them so they could look but warning them not to get too close and never to touch. Finally the eggs started to hatch. The next day the mama bird was gone, never to be seen again. When I peeked at the eggs, the baby birds were still inside, half-hatched, dead with the most horrible expressions as if they'd died in agony, their bodies twisted inside the shells. I didn't even think birds could have expressions, but I swear these did. Probably around the time the baby birds died, the noises started. There was an odd scraping noise from the attic. We brushed it off as squirrels or a tree, but it didn't seem right. Then the knocking started, steady, rhythmic knocks. It would go on for hours, but it took me forever to find the source. Sometimes, out of frustration, I'd scream for it to stop. And it would, immediately. The knocking was coming from behind a door in the garage. I didn't know what was behind the door because it was screwed shut with hinges on both sides that has been painted over heavily. I called the landlady to ask what was in that closet. I explained there were noises emanating from it. She said it was the water heater. I knew it wasn't. I reminded her the water heater was in a hall closet. She muttered some dismissive excuse and quickly hung up the phone. It made no sense. One day I crept toward the knocks, and just as I reached my hand towards the door, they stopped. My fingers were still about an inch away, so it wasn't that I'd pushed shut a loose door. And, believe me, this door was not loose. I went back inside and they started again. I tiptoed back out and again they stopped when I got close. This went on for a couple of hours. I even said hello one time and they stopped, but further questions did not elicit any response. I was baffled. Then the nightmares started. I was plagued by terrifying dreams. I was being stalked by a tall man in a tall hat. I never saw his face, but I heard his laughter. I also kept seeing images of these bizarre creatures in my dreams: the head of a dog or jackal with the body of a raccoon but the tail of something else entirely. They had red eyes and I could find no reference to them online. Needless to say, I didn't sleep well at all. I also started getting sick a lot. My pain and fatigue were overwhelming. I spent much of my time in bed, crying. I became very depressed. The scrapes, knocks and nightmares persisted. Eventually I became determined to make it all stop. I searched online and in the phone books for a paranormal research team or a psychic or anyone who might help. I couldn't find much and couldn't seem to get in touch with anyone. Out of sheer desperation, I called the local Catholic diocese. I'm not even Catholic, but figured they might know someone they could put me in touch with who would take me seriously. They did. They didn't even flinch at my story. They just said, "You need to call this guy, he's who handles our cases like these." They had a guy who specialized in this. Whoa. I called him and told him everything. I was afraid he thought I was nuts. I told him I believed whatever it was intended to kill me or destroy my marriage or both. He said he'd need to talk to my husband that evening. I thought to myself, yep, he must be planning to tell my husband I need psychiatric help. When my husband got off the phone with him that evening, we had an appointment for a team of men to come do a house blessing. The man had told my husband he'd had 5 other nearly identical calls that day after mine. He said we had an infestation. It was only later I learned that is what Catholics call a house possession. They showed up with holy water, Bibles, rosaries and scapulars like these. They prayed, burned incense and candles, read from their Bibles as they sprinkled holy water over seemingly every inch of the house and yard. It didn't help. We had to move. As my husband was packing up the last of our things alone because I had refused to go back to that house once I left, he met a neighbor from the adjacent street. Of course, he said nothing to her of the weird happenings that had driven us away, but she happened to mention something odd. She said they had been bothered by scraping sounds from their attic. When her husband went up to check it out, he saw a bunch of raccoon-like animals with glowing red eyes. She said it was enough to make them consider moving too. I don't know who lives there now or if the subsequent residents have had any similar problems. I've often wondered but never dared try to find out. I'm just glad to be rid of that house. I do know that the neighbors had told us we were the first family to rent there for longer than 6 months, and I do know someone else bought the house 2 years after we left. Oh, I almost left out the strangest part. Just before we moved, I became obsessed with getting into that closet in the garage. I stayed up literally all night fighting to free those hinges. When I had finally removed the last screw, I decided to take a break and gather myself before I revealed whatever was behind that door. I was exhausted, sore and drenched in sweat. It was morning, and I'd already gotten my oldest son off to school and my husband had taken the little one to daycare. I was almost ready. I wound up falling asleep in a chair in the garage. To this day, I can't understand or explain it, but I never opened that door.
That's all for today, guys. I hope you guys enjoyed the paranormal experience stories. Please support our channel Top Quora Stories by liking, sharing and subscribe if you like to listen to more stories every week.